Hey there everyone, my name is Hitesh and in this video we are going to talk about what is Postman. And in case you are thinking that I know Postman, Postman is just a simple tool through which I can send the web request, get some response back and just check out whether my APIs are working or not. No, my friend, you are absolutely wrong in that case. Of course, Postman does exactly that, but it's not just that simple that you can explain the Postman by, hey, it sends a request and gets the response. This is exactly the point where a lot of people make mistake. I mean, just think for a second. Just think for a second and just realize why everybody on the internet calls that Postman is the industry standard for every developer, whether it's a backend or it's a frontend. Why almost every developer says that, hey, my company uses Postman. And if you just look at this on their website in itself, you'll notice they say that over 30 million developers use Postman. So there might be something that we are absolutely missing about the Postman than sending just the web request. And this is exactly that video where you understand that how you can utilize the Postman. I'll walk you through with a small glimpse and hints of where the power of the Postman comes around. And of course, we're going to be going through with the Postman. This video will help you to understand what all and what more you can do with the Postman. And of course, we'll answer the question, what is Postman? So in the early days, Postman used to be a very simple client in which you can just send the request and get the response back. It used to be done mostly with the web browsers and some of the plugins of the browsers, which is not a good idea for working with that. So one day the founders of the Postman got really frustrated and they said, I'm going to be launching this tool on its own so that we can make more than making the web request. Rest is all history and the Postman was born out of that. And through which Postman has seen a constant development cycle and it is still not stopping on that part. It is now not just a request mechanism tool, it does so much more and we're going to be seeing a glimpse of that. Not only that, you can write code inside the Postman to automate so much of your workflow. In fact, that's just a part of it which I'm sharing you. I'll show you the documentation of the Postman to share that what more you can learn directly from the Postman documentation. And the best part, of course, it's free. You're already using it. I'm just here to make sure that you understand what power Postman brings to you and why you are not using it. And all the people who are pro developers, experienced developers, they are using it every day. So we're about to hear to change this one and let's go ahead and get started. So let's start with the basic that this is the Postman website and you see that 30 million developers are here. And if you just go ahead and look at their pricing, this is the best thing that everybody can see that, hey, this is basics and all not and whatnot. But we all know that Postman is free. You can just go ahead and use that. These Postman pricings are for the enterprise. They don't charge for indie developers anything at all. Although the pricing page is pretty nice, what all we offers and all of that. But yeah, as an individual user, it doesn't cost me any money. I just use it and it generously offers me. Anyways, we're not interested in that part. We are more interested in something more. So I have already created an account and this is how the Postman account looks like. By the way, if you want to use Postman without this, you can just go ahead and do that. I prefer to have my account because we use it in and out in all of our application. First, how can we use this? Where can we make the web request? I do have an open source project on this. We're going to utilize this, but you can use any of the web request for that. So the project is freeapi.app. And in this, we can just check the project. We will check the project while writing some of the scripts, but all I want to show you is cooked in docs. Once you open the cooked in docs, this is how you can make a web request. So we'll go in the authentication because that's where we need to automate some of the stuff. But let's just say right now we'll see the public APIs. I want to grab a random joke, book, stocks. What should I get? Random quote. Random quote would be really nice. So there is random quotes and there is a random get one random quote. So I'd like to make a web request onto this one. I can go ahead and try this out and I can execute this. And I can see that, okay, this is the point where the web request was made, although this is very nicely cooked docs, but not all the application that you're developing doesn't have this kind of really nice cooked in docs. You want to just see how it's going on in the local host and make a collection of it. All right. So this is what I get in the response about the author and all the author slug and the content and all of that. Now the whole idea is I want to just go ahead and copy this whole thing and I want to make the same request with the Postman to just get started, and then we are going to write some scripts, automate that to see the true power of the Postman. So what I'll do is I'll just go on and open the Postman. This is what we have. This is how it looks like. Maybe you want to log in, not log in, that's up to totally your call. Now, next thing is I want to make a web request. The first thing that you're going to see is I can just click on the new and it opens up the web request, the type of web request I can make. I can make an HTTP, tada, obvious. But we can also make the GraphQL, gRPC, WebSocket request, Socket.io, whatever you want to go, we can go with that. I don't usually go with this kind of a style because this is just one of a request. Let's go ahead and try that. Then I'll walk you through with what I use as a workflow majorly of the time. I can just start a web request. I can just go ahead and say, hey, this is my web request. Go ahead and make a GET request on this one. By the way, of course, you can use or you can type the new method as well, but I'm happy with the GET. I'll just go ahead and send the web request. And that's the major use case from the majority of people that this is it. Maybe I'll just save it. But let me walk you through with the true power of how the Postman actually goes ahead and work for it. So what I'll do is I'll just remove this. I don't want to save it. Majority of the time, I just go ahead and try to create a collection for this one. So I'm going to go ahead and create a blank collection, but you have a whole lot of templates that you can use around once you are familiarized with how to utilize Postman and its true hidden superpowers. I'll start with the basics. So I'll just go ahead and create a blank collection. And I'm going to name this collection as YouTube demo Postman. YouTube demo is good enough. All right. Now inside this YouTube demo collection, I can add a web request, but you can also go ahead and see that there is so much more that you can go ahead and work with that. Yes, this is what I really like, that how much superpower is there and how much you can utilize this. So I'll just go ahead and move this here so that we can see it all up here. So this is what we have. Now I'll just go ahead and click and I'll say that I want to add a request. You can add subfolders into this if there is a need for this. So let's just add the folder. And in this folder, I'm going to go ahead and call this one as public because that's what we are calling. And inside the public further, I want to add a request. By the way, you can add outside as well, but I'll add the request here. Now in this, I would love to make a request to this one. So we see that, okay, it works really nice. But obviously in the very near future, I'll be making more web requests to this entire API and the routes could be different, but I have noticed already that api.freeapi.app/api/v1, this is going to remain exactly the same. So how we can make this a little bit easier? I can just go ahead and select all of this. And yes, it pops up, says set as variable. I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'll set as a new variable. I'm going to call this one as my server. Looks pretty good. And further, I'll select the scope. So scope is something that this variable should be available to all of the collections that I have or particular collection that I'm asking it or the active environment. I'll talk about the environment probably later on, but right now I'll just say in this collection only this should be available. This is my scope of this variable. Just set the variable and that's it. Now this is set as variable, makes my life a little bit easier. Yes, still it sends the web request, but makes my life a little bit easier. Things are okay at this point and you say, hey, I know this part. This is pretty obvious. Can you show me something really nice? Let me walk you through. First of all, if you look at this part here, this is a little hard to see, but this is here. You can go ahead and see the console that what requests are going in. This is all the traffic that is going outside of the Postman. And all the traffic that's coming in, that's here in the response. We have the cookies, we have the headers, whatnot, and all these things. This is what is coming in. Now, to explore things in a little bit more, and we'll be writing some code as well, let me walk you through that part as well. Now, if I go back onto this docs, we are done with the public request. We are pretty aware of it. We'll close this one. Not interested in the public API part. I'm more interested in doing some authentication. While doing the authentication, the first step is obviously to register a user. I go ahead and do this. I want to try this out. Heads up, I tried this before making this video, so obviously this test user might be already registered, but we'll see that. I'll go ahead and execute this, and this gives me a response that, you know what, the status code and all the thing user is already registered. Let's try to modify this. So how can I modify this? I can go ahead and change things here, user email and domain. So instead of this, we'll go ahead and say this one is example. If I can write that, that would be really nice. There we go. User.email. Instead of that, let's go ahead and call this one as t.example. Password is okay. Role is admin. And we're going to be changing the username as well to t. I'm pretty sure that's not registered, although this is public API and people register all kind of users, but we reset that in our database timely. Let's go ahead and try to execute. Now, if I execute, this is the response that I got that, hey, user was successfully registered in your application. Okay, nothing super extreme in that case, but let's go ahead and try. Let me show you the power of the Postman. I'll copy this route. And now let's go ahead and create another folder where I want to check the auth. Create new folder and add a folder. I'll call this one as auth. And inside the auth, we'll make a new request. Obviously, this request is going to be of type post, but I don't have to copy the entire URL because I know that I can just go ahead and use my server. This is a variable. And after that, I can make whatever the slash request is. So in this case, it is just the slash user slash register. Makes life a little bit easier. I'll go back and I'll just say, hey, this is where I want to send the request. Of course, this is a post kind of request. If I send the request just like this, it will say, hey, email is required, email is invalid, all those validation check. By the way, we'll go into the code part as well of this open source repository. This is really nice. I'm happy with this, but this is not the response I'm looking up forward. So I need to send some data. Although this docs really help that I have to send this kind of a data. How can I send this? Pretty easy. You have all these options to send the body. If I check the body here, I have the option to send form data. We have the option of URL encoded forms. You have raw data and all of that. By the way, with the form data, you can change the type text to file and can send the files as well. Just the basics, or you can set the binaries, send the files directly. I'll show you some fun stuff around that as well. But in this case, I'm more interested in the raw, and there's a lot of data type you can send. I'll just send the JSON, and this is how you send the JSON request. Oh, this is fun. Okay, now this is what the example what we have, but this user is already registered. We know that part. If I go ahead and send this, oh, this is already registered. A user with this email and username already exists. This is nice. So we have a response which is already being done. Now, first interesting part is I can just make a right click or a click on this one, and you can do so much more onto this one that you can actually save this as an example as well. I'll just go ahead and we'll save it later on. But right now I want to worry something that, hey, this is not going to work. Any given time, if I have to come up here and have to work it like this is definitely not going to work. I cannot come up with different emails every single time I have to check this one. This is the first interesting stuff comes up. In the Postman itself, you can just remove this email, start your variable holders, placeholders, 2 curly braces, and then you can use a $sign. Look at the list of it. Yeah, you can just go ahead. Postman knows it, that there is so much of randomness that happens while testing. That's why I say this is a testing first company. They knows the stuff that is being randomly used. Notice here, pretty much anything that you want, but there are some things which are not there. How can I come up with that? That's where we are going to learn. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and say I want a random email. This will generate a random email for me. Pretty cool. Okay, let's go ahead and see that if it is able to do this or not. Let's go ahead and send a post request. User with email or username already exists. So right now, user with either email or the username is already exists, but I want to see this. Let's see in the console. And if I go ahead and open up the post request, notice here the post request, I can go ahead and check all of this request header. I can see the request body as well. And there we go. This is my email, which is absolutely random. Told you, it's super fun and you are not utilizing its true superpower. Let's go ahead and close this and send one more to just see this. Notice here, the new one comes around and at least this part is working. I'll open the request body and I'll say, hey, there is this one, another Hotmail user. Guess Postman loves Hotmail. I don't know. Okay. So one part is solved. How can I grab the password as well? Can I go ahead and grab the password just like this? Yes, you can just do that. Oops, too many curly braces. And I can use a $sign and there's so much more into this one. And I can go ahead and use a random password. Is there a random role available as well? Let's go ahead and try this. Obviously, Postman doesn't know what kind of role we are supporting in our open source project. So I'm pretty sure that doesn't exist. Random role. No such thing as random role. If you'll do this, it's going to be a bad request. But we need to see those bad requests as well. That's the testing. Send this, open the console. and open this part. And what we're going to do is, okay, and let me just go ahead and move this here a little bit. You can see it properly. And here is my response body. And in this, invalid user role, what you're saying, request body here, and there we go. Password is there, random role, the variable was shipping in as it is. This is not good. This is not good. I want to send something more. This is not going to cut through. So there is two challenges in front of me. First of all, this random role, it's not working, and the random username, this is not working. So what you can do further in the Postman, you can come up into the pre-request script. Perfect name, I don't need to explain it more. All the script that runs before you send your request. That's it, ta-da. So what I want to do is, let's just say I have a function and I'll do a deliberate mistake here, just warning you in advance. I'll just go ahead and say get a random role. So I'm defining my own function here. By the way, you can use arrow functions as well. I like to go with the classic. I'll go ahead and say I'll go with the roles and what roles you have. And we are going to say we do have an admin, we do have a user, and probably we do have guest. So these are my roles. Now I want to select a random role based on this. Pretty easy. You can go ahead and find roles and we can just use whatever the index is based on. It's a classic JavaScript. Yes, JavaScript works everywhere, almost everywhere. We'll just float it out and then we're going to go ahead and say math. And we are going to use a random. There we go. We have randomized the stuff and we can multiply it by role dot length. So there we go. Now it is governed by the role's length and we will be able to grab it. Now there are a couple of problems and hints that, okay, I have defined my function, but how does my body is going to know that, hey, I do have these new variables available for me? So all you have to do is PM. Yes, there is a thing known as PM, Postman. Yes. And you can just go ahead and say dot. There is a ton of things that you can do. I bet you didn't know about it. So you can go ahead and set about the cookies, environment, execution. Honestly, I'm not even aware about all of them. I just use few of them. So one thing that I often use is pm.environment. Yep, that's the one. And there's only a couple of options that you use for the environment. You either set it, clear it. Mostly you just set it or get it. I rarely clear the stuff. So the get one is here. Sometimes I do check has as well, but very rarely. We can just go ahead and use get. So not the get. We want to set the environment first. My bad. So what do you want to do is when you want to set an environment, you pass on what environment variable name should be and how should I set it. How? It's the easy part. Get random role and go ahead and execute that so that you return a role. And where should I return this role? So simple, just go ahead and call this one as random role. Now that a new variable is available, I can just go ahead and save this. The only thing you have to keep in mind is when you check the body, you cannot now just use the dollar. The dollar sign is reserved for the Postman variable itself. This is not a Postman variable. This is a Hitesh variable. I designed it. Anyways, I can just go ahead and say the random role now. It is not going to do our job entirely, but it's a one step ahead. I'll just click on save first. Then I'll open up the console. I can clear the console. And now let's go ahead and send the request. There we go. We have sent the request. It still does the job. Notice here, it's still false. We'll come up there. I'll just open the Postman. I'll open the request body and I need to shift this. I need to open the request body and then in the request body, notice here the role name is guest. So this is coming in. Now this is giving us a problem, but the username is also giving us the problem. So first we'll solve the username problem and then we'll solve the rest of the problem. So username, how should we get the username? Now there are lots of ways on the username of getting that. I'll just grab a username which is all lowercase. So I'll just go ahead and say function, get a random username, just like that. We'll just go ahead and work with this. I can just go ahead and write these scripts. Now the first thing that I have to do is grab all the letters. So I'll just go ahead and grab this. Now how can we do this? Let username equals to, just like that. We'll loop through all the values. I wish there could be some suggestions there, but hey, I'm asking too much. So I'll just go ahead and write this like this for let I, really boring. We start with the 0 and then we go ahead how much long the username you want. I'll just say I want just the 7 letters here and I'm going to go ahead and say I++. Really basic. Oops. So this is my loop, and in that I'll just go ahead and say this username needs to plus equal with the letters and the character at which character I'm going to be choosing. I'll be doing the math random again. Can I copy paste this? At least this part I can copy paste. Why not? Copy and paste this. So we have a mat.floor, we have a mat.random, and that's going to get multiplied by the letters length this time. Super easy, letters.length, not bad. All right. Once this is all done, we'll go outside of the loop and we'll just go ahead and say, I want to return the username. Hope that is cooked up. So now it is pretty sure that the username will come up. This whole thing is pretty nice and easy. I'll just go ahead and get some space for me. Can I duplicate this? Oh, I can use the keyboard shortcuts. Oh, I didn't knew that. We can just go ahead and say get random username, just like that. And I'll just say this one is random username. Pretty cool. And now in the body, this is not going to still solve the problem. I'll show you some of the open source hacks as well. I can just go ahead and copy this stuff. Why should I copy this? And I can just go ahead and say random username. These are my variables. It's still not going to solve the problem, but that's not the Postman problem. This is how we debug the stuff. So I thought I'll include that part as well. I'll open this up and I'll say that, hey, let's make a web request. Let's open the console, clear this up, and I'll send this request. So let's see what's happening in here. Again, move it a little bit here. Response body, and there we go. Username is coming in nicely. And we have the password. Everything is pretty good. This should actually go through. This should go through. This didn't got me the error. This should go through. This goes through. Let's try it one more time. Oh, there we go. Invalid user role. So why we are getting invalid user role? We saw that it works. But the way I have designed this tutorial, the way things should have happened is we should have got this one first. So why is this invalid role? This is where the open source power comes in, that I can go ahead and look in the project itself. I'll open this project in a new tab, and this is the whole source code that we have available here. Now, I want to see what's happening in the source code to see that, hey, what kind of users you are actually accepting, what roles you are accepting. I just wrote it as randomly, admin, user, guest, but I have no idea how the roles are actually going in. This is where you see the source code of an open source project. I'll just probably zoom it a little bit. And the first obvious step is go and check out should be, let's go ahead and see where are the models. Here are the models in the auth, in the user model. Let's see how the user model is being defined. If I check this one here, oh, there's a user role enums. Where is this? It's coming up from the constant.js. So I'll hunt for the constant. I can just search for it as well. But I know we designed it. So I know that constant.js, I can just go into it and, oh, this is where you are saying, so you're supporting only admin and the user as a role. Oh, nice. I can modify this app as, hey, I'm not supporting the guest. Maybe some other app is, so I can reuse my script. I'll just go ahead and save this, and that's it. I fixed the bug. And now if I make a web request, it is every single time going to just work with that. And there we go. Now, whenever I need to test my register API, this is an automation work. All I can do is work for this. Not only this, I can save these variables. Even I can show you how to save these responses and extract some of the data. Like for the login purpose, if I go ahead and check how do you log in, let's go ahead, work like that. How do you log in? What data you need? You need password and username only. So I can extract from this whole response that give me just the username and the password. Yep, username and the password. And I can store the password from this, or I can just create, instead of random password, just one password for all the tests, which is a common practice. I can just go ahead and do that. Now, in the future, I can just click on this auth and not the auth, this entire collection. I can just go ahead and start run collection. So every single request that is there will automate there and go ahead and check whether I'm doing all okay or not. Now, if I go ahead and look onto this one, you'll see that there's so much more that is going on with this one. Just one more fun stuff, because you are so interested in this one. I can just go ahead and look for YouTube demo, and I can say generate tests. Yeah, that's nice. And I can generate test for whatever the request I'm looking up forward. I'm interested in this post new request. So I'll just go ahead. I should have saved this with some name. That would really make sense. So I'll just go ahead and call this, instead of new request, we'll call this one as register. That's better actually. Now let's do, oops, wrong click. I can go ahead and say generate test, which is in beta, but I still love it. It does the job. This is my register request, so I'll just go ahead and see this. Okay, this is really nice, and I can just go ahead and register the test. This is fairly a new feature, but we'll just go ahead and we'll just say generate the test. And now it's couldn't add this due to previously failed request, fix the request. Oh, we have to fix this. We forgot to save. My bad. Okay, we'll just remove this public. We are not interested in this part. Delete this, forgot to save. Okay, this one is save. This one is save. Let's go ahead and send this. And there we go. We are doing absolutely fine now. Now I can go ahead and hit the generate test again. Let's just generate this. Now this is generating. It's working on it. You see the test there. And verify the avatar object is present in the response. It does it on its own. A little AI there, but I can fix that. I can see in the body what is the status code. And I can just go ahead and save this. Response code, you can see that, hey, notice here, it's actually even writing these whole things for me. Can I just go ahead and move things here? Anyways. So notice here, again, pm.test. So you're writing automated test scripts for that. Required field, that these are expected fields, valid format, email is in valid format. You can just go ahead and write your own as well, but hey, these tests are being generated. So anyways, you get the power of this one, but I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. This is just to spark the curiosity in you that there is so much more in the Postman. So stop calling it as just, hey, this is... Anyways. In the Postman, if you go ahead and look on this, there is a Postman Learning Center. Yes, because there is so much that happens in this one. I think it's worth spending your time into this one. If you just go ahead and get started with send request, response, and all of this, but there is so much more in the Postman flow, collaboration, and whatnot. You can even look at the Postman docs as well, which is still in the Learning Center. If I just move this here, what you'll notice is in the Learning Center in itself, there is so much that you can do. And if I just look at the write script part and write pre-request script, write the test with monitors, write test, this is where I saw this, hey, I can do so much of scripting in the Postman. And they give you nice examples of how Postman collection variables, set details, God knows what. This is all you can do, and you can just edit them, work with that, next steps, write the tests. This is how you can work with that. And there is so much more that you work with that. Even if you want to get the random email, there is a community.postman where you can find so much of answers. It's like their own Stack Overflow, but it's already pretty default and work with that. So this is the basics of how I want you to see the Postman from a different perspective. So yes, I know this is a 30-minute long video about what is Postman, but I think somebody needed to come out and say that Postman is beyond just sending the request and getting the response. And I think with the demo, you understand more. So now if you're a backend developer or a front-end developer, you truly understand what kind of monster the Postman is. It is super crazy powerful, and that's why I'm a big fan of it. And it's free, and that's why I love it even more. So that's it for this video. If you want me to design a little bit more on the Postman side, like what more we can do and how we can integrate it in our workflow, let me know in the comment section. I would love to do that. That's it for this video. Let's catch up in the next one.